everybody, Matt Son here, Friday Night Videos. I hope you've had a good week. And if you did not have a good week and you're going through something rough, I really feel for you, and I hope that there's a light at the end of the tunnel coming soon. But if there isn't, hang in there. The light will come. Okay. I want to talk a little bit more about contemplation over reaction. Basically, I'm going to segue a little bit from last week's blog, but I'm just probably going to go into more depth about this idea of contemplation over reaction. And notice what we want to do many times with a negative reactive behavior is we want to instantly fix it. We want the answers now. We want to change it automatically. We don't even want to sit through it. We don't even want to feel it. We want to get rid of it now. Instead, think about that reactive behavior, and instead of trying to get rid of it or release it or let it go, think about transforming it. And notice again, I said transforming, right? I didn't say overcoming it or beating it or fighting against it. I said transforming it because it's just energy. When it comes down to its most basic essence, that sensation that you don't like is just energy. It only gets bad or good when we label it bad or good. And when we label it bad or good, we'll try to fight it, we'll try to overcome it. But many times what that does, it actually pulls it in closer, right? And what we'll do is either we'll pull it in closer and we'll find a way to tuck it in really nice, like somewhere inside, so we don't see it for the time being. But later on, it comes back up faster and harder than before. So, okay, so we want to, when I'm talking about contemplation over reaction, really I'm talking about learning how to sit still. I'm talking about meditation. I'm talking about that stillness, right? Without reacting. And the more you can learn to be still during those times when you get that horrible feeling inside you that feels like you got to move, the more you can practice it, and the more you can allow that feeling, that energy, that stuck energy, because that's what it is, stuck energy inside of your body, to just kind of step back and let that stuck energy kind of find a way of its own to let go and release, as long as you can step out of the way. And the body can do that, by the way. The body has innate natural abilities to move feelings through. We just got in the way. If you watch my other videos, I've talked many times about that and how babies are great at allowing feelings to come up and go. Emotions generally last, well, emotions, when you focus on one thought, feeling, sensation at a time, I've talked about the thought, feeling, sensation many times, so look back at the other videos, will generally last 90 seconds, like Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor said. They will last 90 seconds, generally. Now, does that mean that particular emotion will be washed and clean and you won't have to deal with it anymore? No, because there's probably other thoughts, other sensations attached to that particular emotion, and you have to go through the other thoughts, but one at a time. Okay, I'm not going to make this video about the thought, feeling, sensation combination. Watch the other videos and you'll learn about it. But along those lines, I think one of the best features about the Perfect Affirmation System that I've created is that it's got a strong element of meditation in it. It's something that I don't think a lot of the therapies out there necessarily have. Right? It's got a strong element of meditation to help you sit in the feeling and to allow you to be able to watch it constructively and objectively so that the body can cleanse it and move through. Now, when you can sit without reactive pattern to act, the sensation in your body will dissipate, because you're no longer trying to fuel it by trying to get rid of it. Remember, that's that old saying, the more you resist, the more it persists. And when it dissipates, your natural energy that's underneath that stuck energy will come up to the surface. That natural energy that wants to come up to the surface is inspired action. Inspired action will finally be able to make its way through. Inspired action can't make its way through if you're sitting here trying to battle and fight against that particular feeling, right? That just the fight alone creates a suppression of that particular feeling, or not a suppression, but just the fight alone holds on to that particular feeling even tighter, right? So when you can just simply contemplate and sit through, the body will take over. As long as you acknowledge what the feeling, thought, sensation is. Again, I won't go into that too much, but as long as you can acknowledge it, then the body can finally take over and the body can finally cleanse and move that energy through. More about contemplation. I'll talk a little bit more about that. When we can contemplate what's happening inside of us without judgment, the sensation that we usually want to run from will dissolve. I've already been talking about this, but in more detail. But when we use thinking, when we're trying to outthink that particular feeling, we may be able to outrun it through thinking for a little while. But all that's doing is all that overthinking, that analyzing, that trying to analyze our way out of the feeling, all it does is push it down even deeper, right? And so it looks good for a short time, but then another situation which created the same reactive pattern will eventually come along, and what you push down will come up to the surface and blow up. Okay. And and everybody in a relationship knows this, right? In particular, you guys. I'll pick on the women just a little bit, but you guys know this, right? If your girlfriend or your wife has a particular issue that they're battling or that they're contemplating or that they're going over and it's really bugging them, and they just can't seem to move through it, and here we come as macho guys, right? We come along and try to fix the situation, and we try to help our girlfriend or our wife outthink the situation. Oh, honey, don't feel like that. She didn't mean to do it to you. Oh, baby, don't even give it a second thought. That's got nothing to do with you anymore. It'll pass. And what happens when we tend to do that? Generally, most of the times, our girlfriends or our wives will just be tight-lipped, right? Sorry, guys, I'm having trouble with my Kindle today, or my iPad. They'll be tight-lipped. And they may be quiet, and they may not be talking to you anymore, and it's not because you've been able to logic them out of the particular feeling. It's because they've come to the conclusion that talking to you is absolutely not going to work. And so it may seem good to you because they're quieter, but inside of your wife or your girlfriend, their feelings are stewing, right? And they're just kind of sitting there seething, right? And then eventually what will happen is that'll come out in an opportune moment. You guys might get in an argument, and all of a sudden, all that stuff that she's been holding on to and seething because you weren't listening to her comes up to the surface and it blows up, right? And then all of a sudden you guys have a huge argument. But if you can have the patience, if you can sit still through her storm and just be there with a guidance and just an absolute unconditional love to allow her to have the expression of whatever she's feeling, because many times she doesn't want to be fixed. Many times she just wants to express and get it out, right? And then the answers will come as she's expressing it. If you can learn how to sit through her particular storms and just be there for her, she'll get it all up and out, and then all those feelings will start to dissipate. She'll feel validated, and she'll feel loved. And all of a sudden, you become the hero. Simply because you were able to sit through the storm with her, right? And I'm picking on women a little bit, but really, guys do this too, right? Maybe to a different extent, but guys have their own particular way, and women, a woman will tend to want to have the guy draw it out by talking it out, right? And all the guy wants to do is sit there and just go over it in his own mind, right? He doesn't want any external noise at this point. So women, if you can practice your own sit still and just allow your man to just move through the way he needs to move through it, again, he'll thank you for it. He'll come out feeling a lot more expressive and want to talk to you a lot more, because he was able to sit inside and contemplate what's going on and then be able to come out instead of having it trying to be forced out, right? Again, I'm using men and women as an example. But it really goes both ways. Men and women have some of the same aspects, a lot of the same aspects, right? And depending on the situation, some of those aspects will show more than others, right? But I'm just using that as a base of understanding. So really, if the more you can learn to sit still in your own stuff without reacting, and learning to become the observer of what's going on inside of your body so that your body can acknowledge that you're acknowledging there's feelings and thoughts and sensations that you don't like, it can finally move the energy through. Our body has innate abilities to do that. Remember, remember, remember. Our body doesn't want any of these feelings any more than you consciously want to have them. It wants to find a way to cleanse them because they're not in alignment with who you truly deeply are. They're just something that needs to be brought up to the surface and cleansed so that that energy can come back to you in a much better constructive way for you to use it. Now, am I like free of reactive subconscious pattern? Of course not. I'm a human being just like you guys. And any guru out there that says he's not doesn't have any more reactive patterns, run the other way, honestly. We all have it. Some of our greatest teachers nowadays, the ones that can admit it, will tell you, yes, of course, I still have my reactive patterns. But I will tell you this, I'm better at it now than I was a month ago. I'm better at it a month ago than I was a year ago. And I'm better at it a year ago than I was at it 5 years ago. And I can promise you this, I will be even much better at it next year than where I am now. It's all about the journey, guys. It really is. I know it's been said a million times about the journey, not the destination. But really, it's about learning about yourself while you're in this journey. And the more you can sit still, the more you'll learn about yourself, and the more the answers will come, and the more inspired action will take place. Inspired action will take place, guys, because it's one of the natural energies of the universe is to expand. Right? As long as you can step out of the way. The more you step out of the way, the more natural, inspired action happens. Okay, so now that you're getting this, like one of the biggest challenges that people have as spiritualists, or people have as people who are working on their issues have, right? They start to become impatient with other people who are going through their journeys, even especially if it doesn't even seem like they're working on their own journeys, right? And it becomes really impatient for you because you're like, work on your stuff. I'm working on my stuff, I'm working on being more spiritual. I'm working on letting go of all this stuff, but you're not. And it's because of you I'm reacting. So when we get to that point, we tend to blame the other person, thinking that they're the ones that are causing the situation to happen. Yes, true to some extent. It's usually always 50-50 in any kind of relationship until it's not 50-50 anymore. Until, right, everything gets broken apart. But you know what? Those are perfect moments and times where you need to learn how to sit even more. How to sit still even more. And I can almost promise you, the better you become at sitting still in those moments, the less reactive that person will be around you, because he or she will not be getting the same type of energy from you. And it won't be clicking the same triggers inside of him or her. Okay. So really, it's all about taking your own power back. And so one of my pet peeves is when you get somebody who's like found a great tool, and he's using it and it's working with a lot of his issues at that moment, right? And then all of a sudden you might enter into the realm of this person and you have your own tools, and then you get stuck in a reactive pattern because it's one of those moments where you're not supposed to just move through it. You're supposed to sit still and quiet. Then that other person goes, oh, you use this technique. Use this technique to move through. Guys, yeah, they might have some really cool techniques, might have some cool tools. But again, many times when that happens and you can't move through, it's because you're not supposed to move through. You're supposed to sit on it so that a certain muscle can be developed. Maybe it's your patience muscle. Maybe it's your conscious willpower muscle. Maybe it's your just ability to sit still and be quiet muscle, right? And the people who tend to do that, they're so they become so uncomfortable with any kind of feeling. So they see you having a feeling that you don't like. They're so uncomfortable with an emotion that's hanging around that they're trying to move through it, through their own uncomfortableness, through you. Hope that made sense, right? Instead of them accepting the situation for what it is, right? They want to push because they are so uncomfortable in themselves when a particular emotion comes up that they can't move through. So they're trying to push you through it, thinking on some level that's going to make them feel better. Right? It's gonna strengthen their resolve. See, my technique works. See, my tools work. Right? And it's going to give them more energy to use those tools when they have a particular pattern they're not moving through. But the thing is, even they will eventually get caught up in a feeling or a sensation or a thought that they can't move through right away. And they're going to have to learn to sit. But generally, they don't just sit. Generally, they reach for the next tool, right? When the best thing to do at that moment is just to sit and be quiet. See, this constant searching for tools, in my personal opinion anyway, a lot of the techniques and tools, if you break it down to its most basic essence, they're really all saying the same thing, right? But when you're constantly reaching for a tool and you're using different tools on different types of your life and different scenes and situations, many times what you're doing, because you're giving that particular energy, that particular issue, more energy to stay alive. You're not actually cleansing it. You're actually keeping it alive by trying to fight against it, right? But if you can learn how to sit, right, and many times just trust that your body has a way to move through those particular sensations, and it's not going to be easy at first, guys. When you first start learning how to sit, when you first start learning how to meditate, your mind will run amok. And it'll go crazy, and your body will be so uncomfortable because you're not used to sitting, and you'll feel like you have to move, and you'll feel like you have to take care of this now, right? Because we live in a society where everything's got to be done now. Now, the quieter you can get, the slower your mind will be, the more clarity you have, and the more you can do that, the more inspired action, will actually start to happen quicker and quicker. And you won't have to wait that long. I'm not saying you won't ever wait long, but you'll have more moments when that inspired action comes through a lot faster, and life will flow a lot easier for you. Okay, that was a long one today. So contemplation over thinking, contemplation over reaction. The more you can contemplate in stillness, the less reactive behavior you will have, the more inspired action will come about. Live spiritually, but with practicality.